After the divorce, my husband left me with nothing and threw me out onto the street. With my last savings, I purchased a wretched little house in Glucoman. That very same day, I left for the village, and when I saw what I had bought, I couldn't believe my eyes. Before continuing, please subscribe to the channel and leave any comment. Your support helps develop the channel and share even more stories with you. Happy listening! Where are you running off to, little one? Inga rushed after a small kitten that had darted into a dark basement and immediately began to meow plaintively. The woman had bought this house recently. She hadn't even managed to look at everything on the property yet. She had no other choice, and the abandoned old house in the tiny village was all she had enough money for. If she had been even a little bit smarter, she probably would have managed to put her ex-husband in his place, but she gave up everything she had and almost ended up on the street. It was a miracle she even stayed alive. During her 35 years, Inga had received quite a few slaps from fate, but it did not harden her heart. She often told herself that she simply had to become colder and stricter, that she should leave her naivety behind, but she just couldn't fight against herself and go against her own character. Approaching the basement, Inga flipped the light switch. Somewhere the wiring sparked, and the woman got scared, thinking that she ought to call an electrician to look at it. Otherwise, at this rate, it wouldn't take long to cause a fire. Turning off the light, Inga decided that the flashlight on her phone would be enough. She entered the basement, fighting the fear of running into a pack of hungry rats. But inside, it was surprisingly dry and quiet. The kitten was meowing plaintively behind neatly stacked boxes. It occurred to Inga that the old owners had left behind quite a lot of things, and she ought to sort through them, but first, call an electrician to fix the wiring. She wasn't going to clean up with a flashlight after all. Retrieving the kitten, the woman headed into the house with it. She stroked the little one to calm it down. It was thin and dirty. It seemed to completely distrust people, but in the warm palms of its rescuer, it relaxed. "You will live with me. Since we've found each other, I won't leave you on the street," Inga smiled. The woman gave the kitten some milk, washed it, and it fell asleep on her lap. For the first time in recent years, Inga felt peace in her soul. She regretted nothing and was glad that she was able to break free from a marriage in which she felt miserable. Though she lost a lot, she gained freedom. Now she understood how bad it had been for her under the oppression of her husband and mother-in-law, who used her gullibility for their own interests. The next day, Inga managed to find an electrician. The small village where she had settled was tiny, but all the people were kind and responsive. Everyone offered their help. They got acquainted with their new neighbor and told her that she could always count on them. This place resembled a piece of paradise. Even if it didn't possess luxurious views, and the people all dressed in whatever they could afford, her soul rejoiced, as if this very place had been her home her whole life. Roman, a 40-year-old stocky man, inspected the wiring in the house and the basement. He found the damage quickly enough and repaired it. He said it would be better to replace the old wires entirely, of course, but for now, they posed no serious danger if used wisely and if she didn't forget to turn off the light in the basement. Inga understood that the house, bought literally for pennies, would require quite a bit of investment. She needed to find some work and prepare for the winter. There was a lot to be done, but right now she decided to sort through the old things of the owners and get rid of unnecessary junk. Since Roman had a bit of free time, he volunteered to help Inga. The woman thought that everyone here was too responsive, and she ought to prepare a welcome lunch, gather the neighbors, and get to know them better. She had seen in movies that this was how it used to be done. And the people were very likable, so she wanted to make friends with them. Pulling the boxes covered in a thick layer of dust out into the street, Roman couldn't hold back his sneezes. Inga laughed quietly, and the man gifted her a pleasant smile. Could it be that I have made my first friend? The thought flashed through her mind. Our forester, Petr Anatolyevich, used to live in this house. Roman began the story. He was a good man. I was still a little kid when he taught me how to fish. He would take me with him to inspect the forest and show me how to set traps for small game. Did he die? Inga asked in an anxious voice. It wasn't that the woman was afraid of ghost stories, but still, she felt a bit uneasy. No, during a hurricane he was in the forest, and an old fallen tree fell on him. Petr Anatolyevich ended up confined to a wheelchair. His children didn't want to take care of him, so they put him in a home for the disabled. His wife is also an elderly and sick woman. She immediately refused to take on such a burden. From time to time I visit him. He is in good health, longs for home, but it would be hard for him to live here alone now. He accepted his fate so as not to become a burden to the residents. Yet, we were ready to help him. Apparently, his children urgently needed money. That's why they insisted on the quick sale of the house. In his time, he accepted them, became a father to them, and they treated him so cruelly. But that's nothing. God will surely judge everyone. Inga felt sad in her soul. A person had lost the ability to move normally, and he was also uprooted from his native place where he had lived most of his life. It must have been very hard for him. Of course, the woman was glad that she found such an advantageous option and bought the house, one could say, for pennies. But she sympathized with the former owner. He turned out to be just as unneeded by his family as Inga was. Probably, they had quite a lot in common. Pulling another box out of the basement, Inga accidentally dropped it. Old notebooks, some books, and photographs scattered across the floor. Sitting down to gather them, Inga gasped. The woman's hands trembled when she saw a photograph of her mother holding a baby in her arms. It was her, Inga. Her heart beat faster, and a lump formed in her throat. Where did this picture come from in a stranger's house? The woman turned the photograph over, running her eyes across the old, already faded in places, inscription, "Life is a small goodbye." What did those words mean? Gathering the photographs, Inga discovered a pendant, a half of a crystal drop. She reached for her chest and pulled out from the collar of her blouse the second half of the pendant that had once belonged to her mother. Could it be that her father once lived in this house? Her mother had told her nothing about her father. She used to say that their paths had diverged and asked her daughter not to blame her father for not being able to stay with them. Noticing another photograph, in which a handsome, stately man was hugging her mother and smiling into the camera, Inga felt her heart ache and tears slid down her cheeks. "I'll help you gather everything," Roman volunteered, returning to the basement. Noticing the state Inga was in, the man inquired about what had happened. It was hard for Inga to find the words. She had never believed in fate and could not even think that it would lead her to the house where her father once lived. "This man," Inga whispered. "Do you know him?" "That's Petr Anatolyevich," Roman nodded. "He was a striking, handsome man in his youth. All the girls in the village dreamed of marrying him. Once he loved a certain beautiful girl, but their paths diverged. Then Petr Anatolyevich married the widow of his good friend and decided that he would take care of his family, since he couldn't be with the one he loved. The grandmothers on the benches even made up legends about it. They said that they had a tragic love, like Romeo and Juliet. Inga didn't know how her parents had parted. Her mother had asked her not to ask anything about her father, but kept memories of him. Until her last breath, she asked her daughter not to blame her father for anything, but she never revealed the true reason for their separation. Only out of the corner of her ear in childhood had Inga heard that her grandmother and grandfather spoke badly of him and said that the man had ruined their daughter's life. How exactly, Inga did not know, and now she had a chance to find out. Surely fate itself had brought her to this house so that the woman would not be left alone. 5 years ago, after her mother's death, she thought that now she had no support and no close person left. She tried to find a family in the eyes of her husband and mother-in-law, but it all turned against her. And now she could get to know her father. But what kind of secret was kept behind his separation from her mother? Could Inga truly not blame her father? This pendant. "Do you know Petr Anatolyevich?" Roman's voice broke into her consciousness, and Inga startled from the unexpectedness. "I don't know him, but we might turn out to be close. I need to meet him. Perhaps he will be able to reveal to me the truth about the past that separated my mother from her beloved." Roman didn't ask unnecessary questions. He promised to take Inga on the weekend to meet her father. While slowly cleaning up the house, the woman from time to time looked at the old pictures and thought, but not a single guess seemed true to her. What could make two loving hearts separate? Infidelity of one of them or something more? In a few days, Inga managed to find herself a job at a medical assistant station in a neighboring village. Even though it paid little, it was better to work there than to spend a lot of time traveling to the city. It was possible to make extra money by gathering berries in the forest and subsequently selling them, just as the local residents did. Inga had never been afraid of hard work and was ready to take on any job. On the weekend, as promised, Roman drove the woman to the meeting with Petr Anatolyevich. Perhaps her guesses were completely wrong. He and Inga's mother could have been just good friends. However, they had barely entered the room smelling of medications when Petr Anatolyevich opened his mouth in surprise. Inga looked very much like her mother, and for a moment, the man's head spun. But he quickly understood exactly who was standing before him. Roman suggested taking Petr Anatolyevich for a walk to talk in the fresh air. He rolled the wheelchair ahead of him, and Inga walked beside her father, not daring to strike up a conversation with him. Petr Anatolyevich began first. The man recounted that he and Anna had fallen madly in love with each other, but the girl's parents were against their relationship. They did not want to accept a son-in-law into their family whom they considered unworthy. The parents presented Anna with a choice: the man she loved or her family. She feared and respected her father and loved her mother. She could not abandon them and decided to end our relationship. I tried to explain to her that I would do everything to make her happy, that I would try to win the respect of her family. But she wouldn't listen. Anna made her choice, and I gave her my word that I would respect it. I loved her too much and couldn't bear to see the sadness in her eyes. I did not dare to persuade Anna otherwise, which I later regretted for a very long time. My biggest regret in life is that I didn't see my daughter grow up. And now I don't know if I dare to ask for your forgiveness. I failed to become a father to you. I tried to be useful to at least someone, raised other people's children, and now I ended up here. This is my punishment, which I deserved for turning out to be a coward. I thought I was doing what was best by giving in, but I ruined everything. I lacked the courage to fight for my love. Inga listened to her father. Her heart ached, and she didn't know how best to act. However, she began to visit Petr Anatolyevich more often, getting to know him and listening to his stories about meeting her mother. Inga felt that her grandmother and grandfather had kept her mother in an iron fist, and when they passed away, she began to lose ground quite quickly, became very sick, and didn't live long either. The mother's heart was full of regrets, just like the father's heart. Until her last breath, she regretted the choice she had made in her time, and Petr Anatolyevich too. Inga decided that she could not leave her father in the home for the disabled. Fate had given them the opportunity to meet for a reason. If Petr Anatolyevich's wife hadn't sold this old house, Inga would have never known how much her parents loved each other and how someone else's authority had separated them. She wouldn't have gotten to know her father, and he would have withered away in the home for the disabled. But now there was a chance to change a lot. Despite the fact that Petr Anatolyevich told his daughter that he was unworthy of her attention and kindness, Inga took him home. She promised that now she would take care of him, and although they were separated in the past, they would manage to make up for a lot. Upon returning to his native walls, Petr Anatolyevich revived and began to look much better. He started doing wood carving, contacted his old acquaintance, and began taking orders from the city to help his daughter financially and not be a burden to her. The man helped around the house with everything he possibly could. His wife arrived with her son when she learned that Petr had reunited with his daughter. She tried to intimidate Inga, telling her not to even think about claiming the inheritance in the city. She demanded that Petr Anatolyevich sign over the city apartment, which they had bought together, to her children. Inga, however, did not need an inheritance and made that clear right away. She had found her father and did not dare to dream of more. Seeing what a kind heart Inga had, Roman began to court her. For the first time, he saw a woman wit.